What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be learning how to make your photos look more professional using Adobe Lightroom. Let's get started. I know a lot of people have been really hit hard with this pandemic that we've been going through. Especially in the United States. I know that a lot of stuff has been shut down. Restaurants, our whole way of life has completely changed. I don't really want to get political onto all of that stuff, but I just hope that everyone's doing okay, everyone's safe. One of the reasons why I haven't been posting or hadn't posted, it's been almost a year now, is I kind of let it get to me. I had made a huge plan to completely change and redo everything that I was doing on my channel. I was going to change it to a travel vlog where I was going to go and visit different places around the world and the country, kind of make it scheduled out where I was going to go once a week somewhere close. Like on my days off, I would go like maybe to Canada's pretty close, or maybe go camping or something like that. I ended up getting 3 days off. I had Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday as my primary days off, so I'd be able to obtain that. And then at the end of the month, I was gonna plan to go on a little bit longer of a trip, 5 to 7 days. Those would be more of like the long distance traveling. I was gonna try to hit some international travels in there. That way the 5 to 7 days would give it enough time to get those long flight hours pass and still have enough time to do other things that those countries or places had to offer, while still allowing for all the amount of travel time that you really have to think about when you're making those moves. So I let that get to me, and of course there's not much you can do about the traveling when you're trying to make sure that everyone stays safe and everything, and you're trying to abide by the rules and orders and stuff, and stay out of trouble there. But yeah, it's great. I'm here, I'm back. It's gonna be starting a new vlog style again. We're gonna be maybe doing a little bit of daily vlogs kind of thrown here and there. I am gonna be doing a vlog style Christmas where I'm gonna be showing like tutorials, vlogs, maybe some camping and stuff, even though it's getting to the winter time, and other stuff like that. But without further ado, let's dive into the editor. Alright, so I'm going to open up Lightroom right now. Let's see. So one thing that I do want to talk about right now before we first start out is you don't really need a special or advanced computer to really go through and do any editing or anything. When it comes to like Premiere Pro or like editing videos and stuff, that's when it's really going to make a difference. For me, because I do this quite often, almost on a daily basis, whether it's videos or photos, having that more powerful computer does really make a huge difference in my workflow. Things export a lot quicker. You're able to render and do a lot of different things with that a lot better. And for people who want to start getting into this more frequently, getting a better computer is definitely more advisable than I would say getting maybe a new camera to start out with. So let's pick a photo. So I don't know if anybody has seen my Snapchat or Instagram lately, but I did just post one of these photos up there. The other day I had a customer order some prints. This was one of them. So you can see kind of a little bit of difference that I had there. The original photo is this one. I didn't do a whole lot to this one just because it's more of the darker ended photo, or more on the dark end of the spectrum. I did decide, however, that it needed a little bit more orange, so I'm going to walk you through kind of what I did on this one specifically before we go and edit one from scratch. So on this one, usually with my workflow, I start off with, we're in Adobe Lightroom, by the way. So I like to start off and go to the editor. So I'll go to the right side, click the tab right here, and it's going to pop up a couple different things. You're going to have different effects that you can start with. So I usually just like to go down the line, choose what I want, and then move on from there. And if I need to adjust something that's in a previous folder or file area, then I'll just go back to that and adjust it from there. So let's go back to the light. So this one is going to be kind of dark, so I bumped up my exposure a little bit. You know, when you're taking your photos in real life, you want to be able to make sure that your exposure is as spot on as possible. Basically what the exposure is just, you know, the brightness of the actual photo. Too bright, everything gets blown out. Too dark, you can't see anything. So really making sure that you get that photo exposure just right is very vital to any photo that you will ever take. Especially when you're using like a professional camera, like a DSLR, or I mean even film cameras, you know. On your phone, it's a lot different just because your phone likes to compensate for that and have your auto exposures and stuff, especially on iPhones. The new cameras are really good. Of course they can't do most things that DSLRs and digital cameras can do, but they are very good for on-the-fly photos, and I definitely recommend the new 12 Pro Max cameras on there, just because they have really impressed me, and I'm sure they would impress you too if you ever got the chance to use one, or if you even get one, you know. And if you do have one, let me know in the comments below what you think about it, and maybe we can get some other people in on the 12 Pro Max gang, because I definitely recommend it. Alright, so back to the exposure thing. Next, I'm going to hit the contrast. I'm going to see, right now I don't really think it needs very much contrast, which is why I left it at 0. You can see it gets a little bit darker but a little bit lighter, so this is also going to add. Lighting is very similar to your exposure and the different types of things that you're going to be using in that area. Shadows, I bumped up the shadows a little bit. As you can see, the more I do it, the less it takes away from the subject of the picture, which in this case is the moon. So I didn't bump it up a whole lot, but I did want to be able to see the outline, the silhouette of the trees, if that's what you want to call it. So you can see here that my whites have been dropped down a whole lot. So let's bring them up here. So see, bump it up too much. You can see what I'm talking about with the exposure too. But go back to 0, so I had it at +1. Didn't really do a whole lot. You can't really notice it with the naked eye. It's mostly when you zoom in to like the black areas, you can kind of see a slight difference. See how I'm slowly moving it, and it's slowly changing color on like the on like these areas that transition into darker or lighter colors. Blacks didn't mess with blacks that much. See, same thing with the exposure. Now on different photos, I actually think about doing different things with the point curve. So the point curve is going to be the thing where you hear people talking about, like, oh, you know, does it have a deep S curve, slight S curve, you know, that type of thing. So you can see that a lot of this photo is going to be on the left side of the spectrum here, and that's because it's a very dark photo. So what I like to do sometimes, in this case I didn't even touch it because I wanted to keep the dark photo a thing. So you can see how this is kind of changing it. This is just your scope of color right here. So I actually do like this a lot, but the fact that it took away the details of the moon when I changed that kind of makes me want to stay away from it, which is why I didn't touch it in the first place. So next we're going to go down to color. So let's go back and we'll put it back to the temperature, which is your white balance. So for those of you who are learning photography, your white balance is going to be the color of light that's coming, that's lighting up the area in your photo. and that's based off of temperature or Kelvin. So here I obviously changed this one a lot from the original photograph, so let's see what it'll look like. So if you look at this one obviously changed a whole lot. It really has a whole different mood when you change the temperature, and because I took this one I think around Halloween, I wanted to give it more of an orangish, like Halloweenish nighttime feel. People will often say that colors represent emotions, so you're warmer, it also emotions and like temperature. So you would feel that if I am looking at this photo right now being more orange, or in photography terms more warm, you can see that it looks a little colder the farther left I go on the spectrum. Excuse me. And you can see that if I push it to the left side, it gets more blue, which is what we like to call colder. Because you kind of can feel that, like, if I look at this picture, it looks like it might be getting a little bit colder in like actual ambient temperature where I was at, or wherever I was at taking the photo. In this case, like I said, I wanted to keep that that orange warm color because it was the Halloween. So it kind of just depends on what you are doing, what your photo is going to be for, and if you're working for a client or something, what is their vision for the photo. Okay, so this one I added kind of a purplish tint. Same thing, colors, warmth. These are really important, and you'll see a lot of the times when people are adjusting photos that they will be adding a lot of colors and a lot of saturation, which we'll get to here in a few seconds. And if you guys need any photos that you guys want to like work on or edit on, because you don't have really any of your own but you really want to learn, let me know, and I would be very happy to help to send you a photo or something, or maybe even create a photo pack that you can get for free. That way you can learn how to edit photos, and I can kind of help you and walk you through it the best that I know how. So when I'm talking about saturation, you can see how it totally changes the colors. And the saturation is like, so if I pull out all the saturation, that's going to make it a black and white photo. And that'll be the case for any photo, so watch. Boom, saturation out, colors gone, right? So that is one way that you can turn a photo black and white. Obviously your colors are going to be not as light and dark. It's more of a grayscale image. Let's see, so we're gonna go back here, click this photo, and then boom, go back to 0, and then we're gonna go close the color tab. And then these ones are a little bit different. These you just have to experiment with each photo. Clarity, texture, and dehaze. I don't like to use them a whole lot. You can see that texture kind of adds like more clarity on your details, like in this area and other like sharpened edges. But you have to remember that when you're adding stuff like that, especially if you're doing a larger print or like you want to do something of that matter, you want to if you're going to look at it on a large scale and it's going to be really zoomed in, sometimes you'll be able to notice like all of those small details. And like, watch, I'll show you on dehaze. So if I do that, no, which one is it? Clarity, I think. I really don't like to use these ones, so I'm not super familiar. But do you see how the color and the texture of everything kind of changes, and it looks so much more noisy? And for those who don't know what noise is, it's basically like all of these little mini dots, all these dots around here. That's what you call noise, and that's not very flattering when you're looking at an image. So I try to not mess with these as much as possible, and if I do, I use them very, very slightly. I usually have a rule where I'll only add a certain element of whatever it is up to like between 15 and 25, and I usually won't do anything more than that, only because it's not ever anything more than that can really change the overall image. So yeah, so that is basically the whole photo. You can also add some sharpening and noise reduction. Here it looks like I added a little bit of noise reduction, which is basically what we just talked about. If you see the more noise reduction that I'm adding on here, it takes away all of those little dots in the photo. But with that, you also lose the clarity and sharpness of the image. So you can also add back the sharpness. As you see, there's a sharpening tool, but it kind of makes it look noisy too, right? So if we add too much of really anything, it really changes the overall image. Now I did make a cool little photo, I'll show you. Right here where I added a lot of, I basically used all of those. I used the texture, clarity, dehaze, and then the sharpening, noise reduction, and I think maybe color noise reduction, just to try to make that look like a cartoon or a painting or something like that. I just thought it was kind of a cool little image and a cool little technique that I wanted to experiment with. Alright, so for the next photo we're gonna choose something random. Let's go. Let's do one of these photos. So this is a picture that I took of my new car. For all of you people that know about my Subaru, I actually recently sold it. So I sold it for this car, and then I also ended up getting a Nissan Xterra to go camping and stuff. Then we have like a little tent on top, so it's a rooftop tent that folds out. It's super cool. If you ever had a rooftop tent or ever used one or seen one online or anything, they're very cool. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be planning on making a video of camping here soon, showing you all of that stuff and maybe showing you a few little hidden places that we have that we like to go to. Alright, so for this photo, like I said, we're going to start over here. And I really like the colors of the sunset right here. This was taken at Ocean Shores Beach in Washington State. So I want to make sure that I get these colors here and make them very eye-catching, more than what they already are. So let's hit this one with a little bit of auto. So I'm going to hit the auto, so that one automatically brings out all of the colors down here. It's going to bump up the shadows. See, bumped up the shadows a lot there. And you can see this one on the point curve where I have more of a possibility of adding some S-curve in there. So remember what we talked about. An S-curve is the shape of an S, right? So this is going to be like the darker side, this is going to be the lighter side of the spectrum. You can see how this photo has a lot more light in it, so there's a lot more wavelengths on the right side of this graph. So what I want to do here, I've definitely edited another photo that's similar to this one, but I don't think I have. I mean, all of them are really slight. You can see this one right here is a little bit slightly different as well. They just have the sun in different places, and I maybe stepped 1 or 2 feet in a different direction. So, one thing that I learned from experience is that when you're printing photos or anything, you want to bump up the exposure almost on anything about half a stop. So this one's already bumped up half a stop, and that looks really good on my screen right now. But I think I'm gonna bump it up one more. So if it's at 0.5, let's bring it to 0.6. And then that'll bump that up a little bit, still leaving the colors really good, but it brightens up the image overall. So next I'm gonna go to the shadows. I'm gonna, man, see, I don't know. I don't want to have it too bright because I don't want to showcase. I want to showcase the car, but also the sunset as well. So I'm gonna keep the shadows probably a little bit lower. That way we can still have this area and like the reflections of the sun and the sunset on the car, but be able to give it more of a different look. So a lot of this is just trial and error, right? So you just go and you check and you see what looks best. So if I reset this to where it was at, I'm gonna drop the whites down a little bit, and you can see how the sunset, so what I'm looking at right now is the sunset. The sunset starts to show a little bit more color, and you can already see from when we started the difference of the photo, right? It looks way better already, and we have barely cracked it open. So it looks like the auto dropped the blacks down a little bit, and that's really nice. But I think I'm gonna keep it at oh man. I'm gonna keep it at -5. That way it's still dark here, but you can see how the shadows on the car at the bottom of this area are kind of more visible. Alright, next we're gonna go down, after we go through all of this stuff here, we're gonna go down to the color. So you can see here that the vibrance on the auto added +15. So, play with this a little bit. Too much vibrance and it's gonna look crazy, so that doesn't even look realistic, right? That's gross. Not enough, and it drops down the color to almost nothing. So vibrance is similar to saturation in that way. Similar but very different. So we're gonna reset that. We're probably gonna keep it around, let's keep it right here. So we don't want it to look fake, but we want it to look realistic, right? And then the saturation's at -2. I'm probably gonna keep it, I'm gonna keep it at 0. I don't think we need to adjust that at all. And you can see here that I have taken a lot of photos here to make sure that I got the white balance correct. That way we're able to have an option in case I wanted a different original white balance or different photo with anything, including focus and a bunch of other stuff. So let's look here. So more warmth. You see it looks a little bit warmer. You're also adding more warmth, and it's increasing the orange and peach and the sunset colors around the actual image. But we also said that we want to keep it realistic, right? So you can see that if I increase this here, it's going to be increasing the colors of the sunset, the orange, the peach, all of that stuff. But we want to keep this realistic, so I'm going to reset that to the original one. And then I like how the blues are starting to show up a little bit more. See, this is too much. But if we drop it down just like that, it brings out the blues a little bit, still keeps the great color here in the sunset area. So I really like that. Next we're gonna look at the tint. Do we want more purple? Do we want more green? I usually don't like to mess with that much. And if I do, I'll really adjust the colors right here. So maybe let's do a little bit more purple. And then with the purple color mixers, let's drop it down a little bit. Okay, so that is going to be showing a little bit more color. It still looks semi-realistic. I just think that might be too much. So let's go to 15. Okay, so that's looking a lot better. So I'm going to keep that at 15. I'm going to keep the colors drop down a little bit on the purple side. And I'm going to finish up with the color wheel right now. So next we're going to go to effects. This is the texture, clarity, and dehaze that I was telling you about earlier. This is what I sometimes just play around with. You can see how like the texture and clarity of the subject right in front of you really changes drastically, and I think that's just a part of the program, that it just chooses whatever is I don't know, but I don't know, because it might also go based off of the focus of the photo. But anyway, I don't really like that at all. It does help bring out the sharpness of the actual car. So I might do it a little bit. Remember what I said though, I don't like to go over 25. And that's because a lot of the times if you zoom in on one part of the photo, it's changing something drastically somewhere else, right? And that's what we want to stick away from. So texture. I see a lot of photographers really drop down the texture to make the image look softer. I particularly don't really like the soft look if it's overdone. Like this is overdone. Like this looks, if I touch it, it would be like really, really soft, like physically soft, right? But that doesn't look realistic. So I'm gonna reset that. I like the sharpness of the lines, and you can see everything on the car, so I'm gonna keep that there. Dehaze, I probably won't use it this much. I usually use the dehaze if I do use it. I use that when we go to the linear gradients or even radial gradients, and that's because I can focus it on the small area that I want to use. So next we're gonna go to the sharpening and noise reduction. I'm gonna zoom in here. It looks pretty okay. It looks like it might be a little bit noisy. So we're gonna add maybe 8 stops there. Why 8? I don't know, I just kind of chose it. But it still keeps the sharpness and clarity of the image without going too soft on it. Sharpening, I don't feel like we really need to add any sharpness. Like I said, that really ruins the image if it's an okay picture already. And actually I'm going to leave that noise reduction down there because I don't think that really does much for this photo in particular. Alright, so next, if you wanted to crop it or rotate the image, so say you took a photo and the horizon isn't perfectly level, right? And you want to make that and change that. So you can go here, click the crop button, and under the straighten area, if you click in the middle without moving your mouse, you can see the lines that occur here. So if I click here, I can see that the horizon is pretty level, but if you wanted to change it, you can totally change the whole area and it would straighten up the photo. In this case, I don't need to do that because I feel like this is pretty straight. If you click on it, you can see that it might be a little off level right here, but there's also a wave, and the subject here is pretty straight and it's aligned in a certain way that it makes everything else look okay. So I'm not going to worry about that. Next part, I'm going to go to the healing brush. So a lot of the time, I use this for really small things. You can see that right here. So I was just at the beach, right? I didn't really have time to do anything, like go wash my car or whatever, so this is kind of how it is, or how it was. So I'm going to zoom in by clicking Control+ on my keyboard. I'm gonna do that again. And let's see. You can see that this area right here is a little bit dirty. So we're going to change that, kind of click in just the areas, and it should automatically heal for the most part. Sometimes if you do like drastic things, it'll like change, like it'll make it look really weird. Like, watch, I'll show you. So I'm doing I press Control minus. So watch, if I do something crazy, I'm gonna heal the Toyota emblem. Boom, right? That looks weird, but so you see these blue dots, you can change them to be anything. So if I wanted it to be the sun, I mean, it's gonna try to mask it the best it can, to make it look as mostly realistic as possible. But you can see that if I like take that away, click that, it looks like it's basically gone, right? And you can change your opacity and everything on there. But I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to delete this one because I want to keep that Toyota emblem. Anyway, yeah, you can do like a lot of cool things with that. On this photo, let's see if I can find it. I had a photo of my dog right here. So this photo and this photo are obviously almost identical. I didn't get up, I didn't move, didn't take off any leashes. Obviously the focus is a lot better on the dog, but I removed the leash and everything with the healing brush. You can see if you really start to look into it, it looks kind of crazy and weird because, I mean, you're removing a huge thing, and that's just kind of an easy way to do it. You can do it on Photoshop and it would probably look a lot better, but I was kind of just messing around with this photo just for fun to see how well the healing brush would actually work if I was doing that without having to open Photoshop, which was kind of cool, I thought. Alright, so now we're going to go back to the photo we were working on, which was this one, I think. Alright, so back to this photo. Alright, so yeah, so using the healing brush can be really, really helpful sometimes. Obviously, you can't overuse it, like the leash thing was a little bit of a weird idea, but I just thought it was worth trying for that time. So yeah, so that's basically all I would do for the main structure of the photo. I think it looks really good. Next, I'm going to go to the linear gradient. Because I really want to showcase, like I said at the beginning, I want to showcase the actual sunset itself. So I'm going to pull this down, making sure that I get that. And with car photos, I like to go about right here. That way it'll still pull into the windshield in the top area a little bit, but it doesn't look super weird. And the cool thing about the gradients is that they slowly introduce the change in color exposure, whatever you're going to be doing to it, versus like just harshly doing it and have a totally different change. So you'll see what I'm talking about. So remember what I said, how I thought that the tint on the actual here, the color was a little bit too much. Right there, I didn't want to add any more. On the linear gradient, I'll be able to add more. Let's see. Okay, we're going to select that. So on the linear gradient, I'll be able to add more purple tint because it's only focusing on the area that the gradient is selected for. So pink is going to be a little too much. I'll probably go to like 35. I'm going to push my limit on what I was telling you about earlier, just because this is more of a focused area. Warmth, I think warmth we could add a little bit, so we're going to do plus 20 there. And you could already see how this photo is coming together with the sunset and everything. We haven't really done a whole lot in terms of adding anything extra or taking away anything. I really like to make sure that my photos are as natural as possible, that way, you know, when you go and add too much or too little, or if you go and add too much, usually it doesn't turn out as great as you think. And a lot of people actually prefer, from my experience, they prefer just the natural look to it. So next we can go to exposure. Depending on different things, like if you have a cloudy horizon, I usually bump this down to give it more of a cloudy look. But in this case, I don't think I'm gonna hit it a lot. We can kind of see what it does. See how it kind of pulls it back a lot. This could be a really cool picture with that, but I'm not gonna do it a whole lot. So I just pulled it back 0.28. Kind of give it a little bit more orange color. Let's see, and that. Let's see, drop down the highlights with the yellow, orange, and the peach area around the sun. I think that's gonna be it for that. And then you can of course add like radial gradients, which is similar to the linear gradient that I was talking about. Let me invert this. So this is just gonna focus directly on like that sun area that I put, but I don't want to use that. I was just kind of giving that an example. So I'm gonna delete that, and I'm gonna call this photo okay. I like the colors, I like that. You can see from the original photo to this photo how much different it is. That's, you know, the photo itself with the camera is very vital. You have to get your focus points just right. Your aperture has to be correctly selected to make sure that you have your subject in focus and your background out of focus. That's very, very important. But editing is also just as important. I think that with photography, editing is hand in hand, just as vital and just as important to giving those really good images. So, and then we're just gonna go ahead and get this photo exported. Basically that's it, making sure everything's okay. Click that button right there. And then I usually go to the full size file, click the export. Then you can choose like your file, what kind of you want to save it as. I usually go with JPEG, as most places will allow you to upload it like that. Click the export button and select folder where you want it to be saved, and that's pretty much it. So yeah. Alright, so that really does that for my video today. If you guys have any questions or need anything as far as help goes with Lightroom, Photoshop, if you guys need any pointers or tips on photography or anything else like that in general, feel free to let me know. You can hit my DM on Instagram at treyhuska. You can also hit my Snapchat at treysthing, or even shoot me a message on Facebook Messenger with my name, treyhuska. Well, from all of us here at Sapphire Productions, aka just myself and sometimes my friends when they want to help out, y'all take care and keep on striving on.
I'm glad I got to meet you, man. Like, just random chance, someone's wanting to shower, so pleasure meeting you.
Cool, yeah, nice
good luck with
you.
the vlogging, it's awesome. I love to see people doing that, so that's dope, man.
Thank you.
I'll pass that on to you.